Hey everybody, welcome to another week of High Heels to Happy Feels. I'm Natalie,
I'm Stephanie.
and this week we are going to continue a topic that has been, okay, let's be honest. You guys are just going to help me some of my shadow work. You're going to help me talk it through. So, the topic is something I started on social posts kind of over the week. The energy's been kind of pushing us into this take it all on, do it all hustle culture thing going on. And last night I finally had a break. And not like I didn't give myself a break. I had a psychotic break and told, well, not really. Like, let's be real.
But that's awesome.
And and told my job, no, I'm not going to do that. And then I did a social post and I felt really good about it. And I was like, this is how we do it. This is great. I'm going to do this. And I have so much guilt today about, well, what should I be doing now that I'm not doing what they asked me to do? Like, how am I going to be productive? So, Steph, let's talk about it.
First, I have to say, I was so proud in the 30 years or so that we have, gosh, it's almost 30, that we have been doing software and what we do. You rarely say no. You are the one that doesn't push back. I'm always the one that I'm like, oh, hell no, you're broaching my personal time. Forget that. I feel a sick day coming on if you're going to pull that crap on me. Natalie is like, sure. I can do that. And I'm going, really? Between your family and your, already 7 or 8 projects going on? And are you kidding me? So for her to say no, to have like, I've had it hard yesterday. I gotta say, I was so proud of you. But I get it because the guilt is real, right? The guilt the next day is real because now you're like, well, do now now I have to fill that time to make it look like I really did do this. Like I really did need the time. And why? That's your time.
It is. And it's even worse because they're transforming my position. And so I'm like, maybe they're not going to want to transform my position anymore. Maybe like my yes man mentality for the last 10 years has gotten to me,
Yeah.
so much guilt.
Oh, and it's bad. It's so bad because we are, and I will say for our male listeners, I don't know that you guys have to deal with this in the same capacity. Something about women and that nurturing and the need to take care of things and say yes, or words like just, oh sure, I'll just take care of that. Just give me a moment. May I just have you a question, whatever it is. Man, women do that badly. And the guilt thing here is huge. If we feel like it's something that was on our plate, even though it never really was, somebody added it as an extra helping that we didn't ask for, we still feel obligated to finish our plate. And we're not. Throw it in the trash.
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, so let's find a balance between discussing what really is the yes stuff and what is really the no stuff. And I think that's really hard. Like even gender specific, but like what do you want to say yes to? And what really like how do you figure out what you're allowed to say no to? Because there's things I'm not allowed to say no to. I have a job description. I at both organizations. I have things like I don't want to record content. Excuse me? No. Go do your
The
damn
only way
job.
you can share it, right, is you've created it, you love it, you wanted to get it out there, but I don't want to record it. Okay. Yeah, well,
Yeah, I don't want to do that today. Well, I'm sorry, you're on a deadline.
yeah.
So I mean, there are things that you can't say no to, and that's not what we're talking about.
No, no, not at all. We're talking about those things where it's like, excuse me, and I think of the example from the corporate job where everyone is so used to this mentality of the more you say yes, the more of an achiever you are, the better, the da 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 da, being a yes man, yes woman. And no, I think there's real power and strength behind somebody who has the courage to say, no, I don't have time for that because mentally I just don't. They shouldn't. we shouldn't have to justify it. We shouldn't have to say because my family comes first, because it's the weekend, because it's 10 o'clock at night, because whatever. None of your business. None ya. It is my time, and I've just put up that boundary and I've said no. And that, but to your point, about when you can do that, those are the stretch moments. I mean, those are like we were talking about, where they are asking you to do something that is so far beyond what is in the scope of that particular job, of that task, of that project, of whatever it is. Family reunion. We were joking about this earlier. Somebody asked you to come to a family reunion. Oh, yeah, we just want you to come bring your family. Well, then the next week they're like, "Oh, could you organize the potluck?" Hmm. I don't know that I can. Could you, work on um setting up the party favors? I don't know if I can.
Yeah,
And
it's the stuff you don't sign up to do. Like when you're doing your job or when you're saying yes to those things,
uh-huh.
you know you signed up for that. You got hired by that organization. You know what's expected of you.
Yes.
It's the crap that they sneak in on top of you. And I think a lot of it is chasing the yes culture because when you do say yes to these things, when we have big organizational meetings and there's 10,000 people sitting in the audience and the leader mentions your name because you're such a team player. That's the kind of shit we need to quit chasing.
Right.
Like
I
who
don't.
cares if everybody in there heard your name? Does it matter?
Right. What does that mean? That not, most likely 9,900 of them are like, what a
Yeah,
kiss ass,
whatever.
you know? Right? And there's another hundred going, oh, I want to be just like them.
And that's who the speech is really for, is
Right.
get into the yes culture, do what she does, and let's
Right.
go, go, go.
Follow her,
Uh,
follow him. Look, they are doing it right. Of course, we're going to tell you in the same breath, work-life balance. We want everybody to have work-life balance.
yes,
But
yes.
by the way, while you're here, would you mind doing? Yes, yes, I would. I would absolutely mind doing that. So my answer is no. And that's what it has to boil down to.
Okay, but okay. So let's break it down though, because if this is something you're manifesting, you want your name on that stage. You want to be a part of of the
And
the
you want to be
feeling
the
of the
next
crowd,
CEO and you want to do
then
all those things, go
I'm
for
all
it.
about you chasing this yes stuff. This is an inspired action for you. I'm
Right.
talking about the rest of us who are just trying to survive on a work-life balance that aren't like, I want to be the CEO.
Well, but to your point, okay, so you were mentioning this early. It's what is it that where where does your value lie for your yes? If your value is yes, I am shooting to the top and I am going to, this is what I want to do, then you should say yes to all those things. And then you say no to some of the personal things that might get in the way of getting where you want to go here. Right? You
Yep,
still
there
have
you
to
go.
say no to something because you still have to figure out it's just figuring out what are your priorities, what are your values, what is it, where do you want to spend your space? And to your point, we have jobs. We've got you've got to show up. You don't just get to check out and be like, nope, I'm done for
And
the
we
day.
do
I've
them well.
been there for an hour. And yes,
We
we
work hard at them,
we
yes.
worked very hard at both of our jobs. And it's one we're growing, the other has been there a very long time. But it's just if you don't create and figure out what that space is and where you are going to be willing to say yes to more things and no to more things. And you and I were joking about this, and I'm going to bring it up this week, right, everybody? Shadow work. There it is. You have to figure out what
Uh-huh.
you got to figure it out because it brings guilt, like we were talking about. And if we haven't figured out why do you feel guilty about saying no to somebody? I mean, you know the answer to that. You already know it. We've been doing this a very long time. The few times we do say no to something on project oriented type things like that, you kind of go, the guilt is that you know what your Monday looks like. The guilt is some of the crap you might have to listen to. Would it change our mind? No, no, not so much. So it's not so much guilt that you're not shaming me into a corner. That's not happening. The guilt's not turning into shame where it's all of a sudden I'm going to go over here and beat up on myself. But it is, yeah, I'm rambling. Keep going.
Well, and I want you to know that you've added to my guilt just in all of those statements because okay, so
I'm
everybody
sorry.
everybody's empathic and they can feel other people. I'm kind of a super empath, so I
Yes,
know
she
when they're
is.
approaching me that if I don't do this, I know how they're going to feel and I know how my response to them is.
Yeah.
And that's hard for me to take. So I'm a little guilty about that. And then when I do say no, then I'm guilty about, well, what am I going to fill that time with? That was more important. That's my yes. Like, what is going to be my yes,
Hmm.
which I don't know yet, but I'm still telling you no. Like, I'm prioritizing something I don't even know yet. And then on top of that, you just added another one that I'm the only one that has this perspective. And you're like, no, this isn't the perspective. It could be flipped the other way. And people are really, so now I've got so much guilt.
No,
And
sorry.
now
We didn't mean
shadow
to do
work. I
that.
got shadow work to do.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, you do. Because
Well, you know when you tell them no, just how much you've disappointed them and let them down, even on the phone. And it almost gets to the point where you're like, okay, just I'll just maybe spend a couple more hours. And that's just what they want to hear because they've got their foot in the door and then
and
they're bowling over.
is it letting somebody down or are they manipulating? And they don't realize they're doing it. I mean, they may
No,
very well just be like, "Oh, but I really need you. Why do you really need me? Do you really need me because you didn't get this stuff done in a timely manner and so now you've backed yourself into a corner, really need me? Or do you really need me because something blew up and it is something that I can help fix, um, but it's not normal, right? There's a
right.
difference. And a lot of these folks are just master manipulators and they don't know it. They're so
That's
used to
very
just
true.
guilting people into things, going, oh, I mean, I even think about that when we want to go out with our friends sometimes, and you're like, oh, but everybody else is going and it's going to be so much fun. Well, okay. So now you're guilting my FOMO? I'm like, really? I no.
Yep.
Guess what? I'm going to watch Ted Lasso for the 400th time. It sounds way more fun. Thanks.
Right. I'm gonna eat popcorn and bonbons and talk to my dogs. And
Right.
I'm gonna
And I'm not going to do diddly squat. You guys have a ball, and I won't look at your pictures on Facebook. There will be no guilt. There'll be no FOMO. So there. But it's just, it's weird. It's what we're willing to let ourselves be bullied into. And that
Yep.
bullying is the guilt that we're putting on ourselves. Because the fact is, it's just like same example. We all get really dressed and we think, oh gosh, my hair and this, and oh, my roots are showing and everybody's going to notice, or, this is torn and no one gives a crap. They really don't.
Right.
Everybody's so focused on everyone else thinking that they're looking at them that you're busy looking at you, that no one's looking at anybody. So the fact is, in this 5 minutes that they've guilted you and tried to make you feel really bad, their evening went on. And
Right.
Natalie sat and lived with it and is still living with it this morning. And I guarantee you that they haven't thought another thing about it except to know that they screwed up in getting something accomplished and they tried to push it back and rely on her. And too bad.
I'm sure that my no though is going to be part of the retrospective of like things we could have done better.
And
I'm
it's
sorry.
also,
I'm good. Okay, I'm gonna get over that.
but it's also going to be an epic statement to others going forward as mentors, which we are because we have been doing this a very long time in
Yeah.
our software world. As people look to us to be that person, they are going to be like, it is okay to say no.
And
And
that's very
that
true
and
because the
that's
people
the
that are
message. Yes.
under
Because
my
right
guidance
now,
now, I tell them that all the time. I'm like, you are taking too much on. You are doing too much. You don't understand. This is like,
right,
they're like,
you're
well, I'm a little stressed on the week. I'm like, you shouldn't like think about this on.
you're begging for burnout
It's
and
good for me to say out loud. It's hard for me.
to put into practice.
Right. And they see, and yeah. So okay. Okay.
No, but it's true. It's all around the guilt and it's all around saying no and
Right.
the yes no balance. So back to that. We
Mhm.
absolutely have to say yes to some things.
Yes, you do.
Yeah. I mean, and sometimes there's certain family obligations that you're like, oh, I'd love to not go. But that doesn't even have to do with guilt anymore. That just has to do with there is a particular obligation that you have to do certain things. Most people will tell you you only have to breathe and pay taxes, and taxes are even up for debate depending upon who you ask these days. But
Sovereignty.
right, we'll buy a little house.
Well, okay, but to be fair, you don't show up for family events and you don't show up for like friends. You know damn good and well they're talking shit about you while you're not there. And that's
Right?
really why you go is to defend yourself.
Right. Why do I want to do that? I don't want to hang out with
And I'm
family
just
and
kidding,
friends
family and friends.
but
We
I
love you.
but we get, but we you laugh and go, but it's really that FOMO of okay, if I don't go, I mean, us living in Montana,
Right.
I miss a lot of the family things going on in Colorado, and they just happen. And oh, you're not going to make it. Oh, you're not going to be here. And I'm not talking about from like our immediate family, but you'll hear it from other people and go, when's the last time you came up to Montana and visited too? You know?
Well, and see, I love you for that because I think a lot of this guilt, there's a lot of fear of isolation
Oh,
and FOMO or
yeah.
like all of the things that you're emotional distress just because maybe I'm not going to be invited again because I
Yeah.
said no this time. So those kind of things, and then you force yourself to do it because you've built up all of this fear and
Hmm.
shame
Yeah.
around that. And that's the
And you feel like it becomes something where it's like, nope, it's this time of year, it's over here, it's over here. We got to go do it. It's that time. And it's like, no, no, we're doing something here. And if you want to come here, you're welcome to join, or we'll catch you, blah, blah, blah.
okay. So let's talk about challenging the guilt trap because it
Okay,
really is a trap. You fall right into it.
totally. You totally do.
All right. So like really, okay. So and I'm in the guilt trap right now, but
We
I'm now defining like how am I going to recognize this in the future? I mean, when I said no, it was because I was in a place of anger. So it wasn't because I thoughtfully processed through and had a spiritual awakening that everything was going to be okay. No, it was a
Oh, but it was glorious.
it was a hard no.
It's glorious.
Um, but I think like sitting back, I'm going to have to recognize the unhelpful nature of guilt and how it takes you out of understanding the things that are going on around the topic. Like when I said no, I was just mad and that was just how
Hmm.
it's going to be.
Yeah,
But now I'm sitting back going, hmm, why am I feeling guilty? All the shadow work you were talking about.
right. But it
Yeah.
goes to then addressing within that same situation of saying, what got me to a point where I was like, no. And then saying, okay, so I knew no because personal commitments, whatever else it was, that I just don't want to, right? Whatever the reason was that was no, owning that part of it and then not feeling like you have to fill the space. You don't have to fill the void because you said no to one other person. But you do, to your point, have to challenge, I think, a couple parts of that. One, why were you asked to begin with? If, is it because you always have been a yes person and we have to retrain some people? Maybe. Or is it just that this was a one-off thing and you just couldn't attend? I mean, so you have to kind of ask deeper questions around that too, is so you can see, why did I say no? All right, that's okay. And if they ask me again, would I say no again, or would it just be better timing? So is it something that it's like, no, I will never do that. That's a hard line.
Hmm.
And then you can look at that. Or is it timing? Or is it the way that you were approached? Or is it where you were backed into in that moment? I mean, there's all sorts of little variables that you can take a look at and then decide, is that always going to be a hard no? And if so, fine. But make those intentions known now, right? Be like, hey, I've learned this about myself. That's always a hard no.
And that's a great point. It's creating a toolbox. So next
Hmm.
time I'm in this situation,
Yep.
it's learning from the past and letting the mistakes of that go, but putting in the toolbox, how am I going to handle the situation as I go forward? And was it
Right.
because of the day that led me into this conversation with this person? Or,
Right.
what put me in that position to just flip out?
Yeah. Because
Yeah.
this again goes back to what we said at the very beginning with the shadow work or journaling or however you want to do it, but um it's a tool in that toolbox. Because if you're just writing it down and if you've been building up on this anyway for a while, if there's been a resentment issue with a particular group or customer or something like that, and you can go back through your journal and be like, huh, yeah, I can see exactly where this all happened when I hit my oh hell no moment.
Building, building, building,
Yes,
building,
yes.
explosion. Yeah.
Yep. But there's other pieces of it that you just kind of go, all right, maybe it's just a self-love for me thing. Maybe that's all it is. And I don't want to say that is maybe all because that's everything. If we are able to take care of ourselves first, we are much kinder and better to each other as humans if we are kind to ourselves first. Because that shows. If you feel gratitude and you feel love, it's amazing how quickly all the resentment and all the other things just go away. And because you're like, oh, well, I'm sorry to hear that for you. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if somebody tells you no and you're on the receiving end of it, you're like, I get it. You need some space. Check. I'll check with such and see if they can help out, right? Got
And
it.
I think that's the toolbox piece that I want people to come out of this podcast with.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to build my own toolbox because I just exploded. There was no good reason I said no. I just said no, and that's just how it was going to be. But where
No,
I
you had
should,
some reasons around saying no.
well, I mean, right, but mostly because I was pissed. Was what it boiled down to. But if I could have done that in a better way, so I'm going to work on building my toolbox so I can use I statements.
Mm-hmm.
Like I mentioned in my social post last night, I don't have room for this right now. I don't have
Yes.
time. I'm putting my focus somewhere else. I statements, which is
Yes.
not the way it came across. So I'm sure it came across defensive and mean.
And it is interesting because something that as being number one is we're spiritual, but number two for me is a management role where we work, knowing the there's a difference between empathy and being an empath. So empathy, sharing in those statements of I and we and acknowledging and then looking for alternatives. So I can't do this right now. May we work together on Monday to discuss an alternative? Right? So doing something like that, just basically then you're not just saying no. Now, if it is truly a hard no, folks, say no and be done with it. Mic drop, be done, because otherwise you're opening the door for press, press, press into a whole bunch of other areas, and you don't want that. But if it is something that is negotiable, no, right now. There's alternatives. We'll discuss them at such and such a time, date, whatever that might be, that works better for you to keep you more in line. And then you can go back and reflect on exactly what kind of approach you want to take with that. Then you're clear-headed, then you've got all of that clutter out of your mind and you're ready to approach it. Or if you haven't come up with a great alternative or they're stuck in their ways, we agree to disagree.
And we've just created my fourth guilt line that I now have to work through. I know because we've been on this spiritual path for as long as we've been doing software,
Yep.
even longer.
Longer.
Yeah, longer than we've been
Longer.
doing that path of work. I should know better. I should have this toolbox. I should be able to respond in a graceful way. And so
And
now
this,
I'm like,
but that is the art of being human. We are all
I know.
humans being, and it's constant. I'm sorry, anybody who says shadow work ever ends is full of shit. We
Oh
know
yeah,
that.
no.
It never goes away because there's always something that we can improve. There's always something we can self-develop. There's always something that we can share. I mean, we're learning, we're sharing. It's that's how we get information and so on out there. So you have to feel guilt. Of course you do. And you have to say no and feel a little bit of like remorse about saying no for response out. But at the same time, then you also have to examine why do you feel remorse and why do you feel guilt about it when you shouldn't. You shouldn't.
It's
They
all
were
these,
intruding upon your space. They were intruding into an area that it's like, no. I mean, for all they knew, you read travel plans all weekend and you didn't lie. You didn't make anything up. You just said no. Whereas, I might have looked at him and been like, nope, I've got to be gone and I'm flying and I'll see you on Monday.
Yeah, I didn't say anything. I was like, nope, sorry,
Yeah,
doesn't work for me.
yeah, exactly. Which is even better. I love it. Just
Well, yeah, but
fine.
we were talking right before this about all the tools we have because
Yep.
between us, we have thousands and thousands of tools that
Right.
we have just collected over the periods.
Oh my God.
And
I
it's
know.
just every time I think about another toolbox I have to create, I'm like, well, at least it's not something I have to find physical space for.
I was gonna say, this is an emotional toolbox. So this isn't like all the crystals and the herbs and the books and oh,
Oh my gosh,
I
yeah.
know, the candles and huge, yeah. I'm even
Yeah.
looking around here, I'm like, oh, yeah. But I love it. Would I
No,
trade
I
it?
do too. And that, it puts me in my happy place when I'm able to see things like that. But there's so much work to be done on the unseen. And I think
Oh, yes,
like all the time, Stephanie made a really good point. You never end shadow work. It is a constant, and it's not a
correct.
struggle. It's finding yourself and being on your soul-led path.
Yes, yes,
Hold up those pillars.
yes. Get your pillars out, people. Mind, heart, body, soul, or spirit.
Yeah,
Getting that all together, that is, whew, it's huge. But yes, I will just say yes and no. It's a struggle. Guilt is real, but how much of it you choose to absorb and keep hanging on to is entirely up to you. So, you can sit and feel guilty about it, wallow around it, eat a pint of ice cream, feel worse because now you just ate ice cream. So now you gained 5 pounds and then you did this, but that stupid person did this to me. And if they hadn't done it, then this and this and this and wallow, wallow, wallow. Or you can say, they'd really pushed me beyond the brink and I really needed a break. The end.
that's true. That's true. Yeah. So things that to leave people. Okay, so I'm going to be working on my 4 guilt lines. I
Yep.
only had 2 coming into it. Now I've got 4,
Sorry. I
which is
just totally raised
fantastic.
the
I
bar on
needed more
that.
shadow work.
Leave it to your
I
big sister to go ahead and throw a few more crappy things on your plate, right?
and be like, wow, you're really selfish for not looking at it from this perspective, which is not at all what she said, folks, but
It is not. No,
that she's been my sister for a really long time. I can say that.
pretty
And
much
I
your whole
and
life,
I
yeah.
need to create some of the right. I need to create some of those I statements that I can have in my back pocket. So the next time I hit my boiling point, which I went way too far anyway, I knew I was hitting boil long
Yes.
before that happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
To have an I statement available so I don't snap off. So I
Yes.
don't feel guilty about my response.
Yes.
Yeah, so those are the 2 things I'll be working on this weekend.
Well, and learning to say no without that and just figuring out kind of where you were behind it. Um, and then I just had something else here. The people pleasing,
Hmm.
right? It can't be about people pleasing. So if you find that your guilt as you're examining some of this is circling around from trying to please others, take a look in the mirror first and are you pleasing yourself? Because that should be a priority at all times. If you're not finding joy or happiness, and I don't mean you're bouncing around like Snow White every damn day. I mean you are content. You have this space that you feel happy and you can find joy and you can do those things. You're not feeling like you have to lift somebody else up to make you feel better. And it's wonderful to nurture and give. I'm not taking away from that. I'm not saying anything about like those particular roles because that makes you feel good too, but it can't be the only thing that makes you feel good or that brings you that joy. This is an opportunity of empathy to yourself. It is self-love. It's practicing your own time. And no comes with that. It just
Yeah,
does.
practice the baby nose.
Mm-hmm.
Like the ones I mentioned this last night, the low risk nose. I mean,
Yes.
mine was a high risk no.
Yeah.
And I know that, and that's why I'm just not over it yet. But practice those low risk no's so when that high risk does come,
Yeah.
you feel more solid in how you're going to go about that.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Be compassionate to yourself. And
Yes.
then, and In worst case scenarios, if there is need for conversations the following day, week, whatever that might be, you can have those honest conversations with those folks. But for now, you've set your parameters, and good for you, because saying no is saying yes to you.
Boundaries are gold, worth way more than gold.
Absolutely. There's a reason that we put up our shell around us and we put our boundary around us when we're grounding in the morning and doing those things to say nothing negative's coming in. That means, period.
That's something.
Nothing negative's coming in. And if that means me having to deflect some of that myself verbally, then so be it.
Our time and our energy are the only thing that we get to use as payment on this exchange.
Yeah.
We need to protect them like it's life, like it matters, and it does.
And it does.
It
Good
really
point.
does.
That was well put. Very poetic. I like it.
That's because I remembered it from saying it last night when I was all hot and bothered, just going off on the camera.
That was great. I was just like, my heart soared. I'm like,
It was one of those things I thought, oh God,
I thought
maybe
it
I
was,
shouldn't have posted that one, but
oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I was like,
it's all right.
let it
It's all right. Here we are
fly.
today talking about it, and it's totally fine.
Love it.
But yes, protect your time and protect your energy because that's our only exchange in this lifetime
Yes.
on this timeline, however you want to put that.
Yep. Totally agree. Great. Good place to wrap.
Let's wrap it up.
Wrap it. All right. So we are, of course, Immersive Spirit and lots of different things. We've got our soul-led living is huge. And we actually have four dedicated. One is free tools, which we're releasing this week. And we're very excited about just to have those out there about our pillars because those are huge for us. But that will then take you into some other courses if you really want to develop that out. Some are shorter, it's 6 weeks, and there's another that's a year long, and they require serious dedication. So hang on to your shorts if you're headed that way. But the people that are in it love it for the year long one right now. So I will leave it at that, but just say from high heels to happy feels. I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Natalie.
You can find us everywhere. Make sure you subscribe. We're on our YouTube driver. We need that. What numbers, 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 numbers. So share, share, share. Subscribe to our site. Follow us on socials, and we'll see you again next week for another episode of High Heels to Happy Feels. Bye bye.